Andrew from Zina Sterling Silver, and you're looking at a cuff from my latest Desert Wave collection. This has been created exclusively in 3Design and printed on the Formlabs 2 printer and then cast here in my factory. So I'm going to show you quickly how I made this. So let me go ahead and hide this. I like to work in a 3-shaper, so I will do most of the demonstration in shaper, but first I have to create the bracelet. And the way I did that was I already have a bunch of these what are called symbols. This right here is called cuff rail, and that's basically a line that shows me the dimensions of the bracelet that I want. But this is laying flat on this plane. I don't want it in the OXY plane, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose a different plane. And if I open my axes and planes here, actually I'll put it here in the OYZ plane. So now you can see it's in a different plane. So here's my cuff rail, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to extrude that to be 40 millimeters wide, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 20 millimeters and do it in both sides, so that way it stays true to the center of the 3D universe. And you can see that by the plane right here that's bisecting the curve. So this is pretty much resides at 0, 0, 0, which is the center of the 3D universe. So if we do anything to it, that helps with keeping symmetry and things like that. So anyway, this is a surface. There is no depth to it. It can't be printed. It's strictly a surface. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to unwrap that surface using my UV unwrap tool right here. And basically it takes the round. I'm going to center it again in the universe. I'm going to rotate that 90 degrees so it lines up with the piece as I'm looking at it. And basically now we have an outline of what you can see. And I don't need this extrusion anymore, so I'm just going to go ahead and delete that item, and my unwrap will stay. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to turn off my planes by hiding them. I don't like to see them because it kind of messes me up a little bit. The less that you're looking at on the screen, the better it's going to be. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in a shaper. And it gives me all of these tools here on the side. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a box. And I already know that the box is, well, now that's on the wrong plane. We'll put that, okay, now there it is. So we've changed the orientation plane that it's on. And I made it specifically 10 millimeters long, 4 millimeters wide, and 1 millimeter high. This is strictly to show you how I make the pattern. This is obviously going to be too small to make the bracelet. So here what I'm looking at is there are 3 modes. This is where you can look at surfaces right here, this square. Here is where you can look at edges, and what you can see here is that some edges are red and some edges are yellow. That tells me red edges are hard, yellow edges are soft, and then here this is points. And this is a shaper tool, and you'll see why I like that in a second. So what I'm going to do is I'm only concerned right now with the top plane. So basically what I want to do is get the rest of it out of the way. So what I like to do is I'm going to take this top plane, I'm going to choose all of the little squares here on the top plane by using this multi-choosing tool. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a color to that. And I'm going to make that yellow for the time being. Actually, you know what? I'll keep it red. So now you can see when I click off it, the top plane is all red and everything else is this whitish gray color. What that allows me to do is I can turn off the whitish gray, and then any tools that I use will only affect this whatever's visible. So now what you can see is, even though it'll be red on red in a second, all of these lines, these edges, are yellow, which means they're soft. Well, in order to create this pattern, I need to start moving some of these around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click on here, and it's going to choose the edge all the way across, and then I'm going to use my command key, hold it down, double click this one, and then double click this one and double click this one. So now I've chosen every other line. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to my side view here. Doesn't look like anything, but once I turn on my move tool, I can actually move just those lines that we've selected up. And what you can see is now they're kind of bumpy because the lines in between every other line have been raised off a different plane. If I turn back on the white, you can actually get a better idea of what's going on. But I have still chosen, these are still active, and like I said before, yellow is soft. There's a tool right here which is create sharp edge. I click that once, and now I've got these nice sharp edges. So that's step one of creating the desert wave pattern. Step two is now moving the points. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look directly from the top. And what needs to happen here is I need to be able to create the waviness. So the way I do that is I select these 2 points here, holding the command key down, and then I skip over every other set of points. So once I have all of these chosen, now I'm going to use my resize tool, which is right here in the middle. And this green toggle will only move them in the up and down position. And I bring that in. You can't see it, but I click on it and I kind of dragging down, and that brings those points together. I'll do the same over here, holding the command key down and skipping over every other one. And once I have them all selected, I'll click on the green toggle, drag it down, bring those together. Now I go back over to the ones that were skipped previously, click on those points, grab the green toggle, bring them together, and you can kind of see. Now for the points here, because this obviously doesn't look like the full pattern yet, I'm going to actually change the tool, and I'm going to go to my move tool. So for the outside, I'm going to click these 4 points and move those in this direction, and then create the same on the other side. And if you wanted to create a bigger piece of this material, there's many ways to do it. You can make a much bigger piece of material, or we could size what we have right here. For instance, if I choose the entire piece, then you can see the resize tool. What happens if you use the white, it does everything in all directions. But let's say I only wanted I didn't want it any thicker, I just wanted it larger. So I could do the green this way, and then the red one I could go this way, and then I'm making it thicker, but not necessarily, I'm making it bigger but not necessarily thicker. And if I click off that, you'll see what happened there. So that gives you an idea of how that works. So that's how I created the piece. I'm not going to go ahead and create the whole piece. What I did was I did create that piece before, and here in my symbols library, I will just go ahead and pull that out. We need to find it, of course. And here it is right here called wide. So this is actually, that was made basically exactly how we went through. I actually spent the time to hollow it out underneath. But basically what I have is I have the piece the way I created it. It is the exact same size as my unwrap. It actually needs to be within. If it's a little bit overlapping of the unwrap, and you can see right here this little white line that's around the outside, that is the border of the surface. If this extended over the border, the wrap wouldn't work perfectly. But anyway, so now we will take this surface that I created. I will now go to the wrap tool, which is right here. I click wrap, and then I choose the unwrap is what I'm going to wrap it back around. And because this piece was created in Shaper, It wraps perfectly to the surface, and it is structurally sound. It will print perfectly. And then what I will do is I will export that. And I want to export that as an STL. And choose my location. I will put it on the desktop. And I'm going to change the name of the file. It's my Desert Wave Cuff. And save.